Hi, I'm Kristie Public Library Services Consultant at Wisconsin Valley Library Service. In today's Digital Byte, we will be discussing reference interviews. What are reference interviews? Reference interviews are an important interaction between a librarian and a patron. The aim is to understand the patron's information need and match that need with appropriate information resources. Reference interviews are needed to tailor assistance to the individual patron. Interviews help with an efficient resource allocation by finding the most relevant and reliable resources. Reference interviews can also assist in debunking misinformation. The reference interview involves the following steps: negotiating the patron's question, gathering evidence, searching for information, evaluating resources, and offering referrals. Now we'll take a closer look at each. It's critical to understand the patron's need and question. This will take some time and patience. Dig deeper and encourage the patron to reveal more about their question. Generally, the first question asked is not the ultimate information the patron is seeking. For example, a patron might ask, "Do you have a telephone book?" But what the patron is really looking for is the customer service phone number for a clothing store. Answering yes to having a phone book or no does technically answer the patron's initial question, but it might not satisfy their search. It might be that you no longer have telephone books in your library. Answering no might cause the patron to leave because they couldn't find the information they're looking for. But understanding from your perspective that the patron is looking for a customer service phone number, you might be able to know of different resources you could use to find that phone number. Use open-ended questions to keep the conversation going. Questions that can be answered with either yes or no are not always useful. Concentrate on the actual question. Patrons can tend to add a lot of background and unnecessary information when speaking. Try to stick to the question. Actively listening to the patron without interrupting is also important. Nobody likes to be interrupted, and asking for assistance can be intimidating for some people. Restate or paraphrase the question back to the patron to verify that you are understanding the patron correctly. Don't jump to conclusions. You may think you know what question is coming, but it might be incorrect. Find a common vocabulary. This generally means dropping library jargon and speaking in plain language. Understand what size or amount of information the patron is seeking. How will this information be used? Is someone visiting a foreign country and looking up a few top highlights, or are they planning to move abroad? Those might be different searches. Is the patron interested in a topic as a hobby, or is the patron writing an in-depth school term paper? A reference interview requires building and gaining trust from the patron. This is done through attention, careful listening, relating to the patron, and working in depth to understand the patron's need. There are some techniques that can be helpful with reference interviews. When assisting a patron, open-ended and probing questions will be the most useful. The purpose of open-ended questions is to encourage patrons to express themselves freely and provide detailed information. Some examples of open-ended questions are, "Please tell me more about your topic," or "What additional information can you give me?" Probing questions aim to seek clarification on specific aspects of the inquiry. Some examples might be, can you provide an example or scenario related to your request? Are there any specific criteria or preferences for the information that you're seeking? After spending time understanding the patron's question, then it's time to gather evidence. Who is asking the question? Is this a high school student for a report or a business person with a question? What does the patron need to know? Is the patron looking for a specific item, or is the patron looking for a variety of materials on a topic? What type of information is needed, such as background information or scholarly analysis or statistics? Determine what work has already been completed by the patron. Try to assess why the patron needs this information. Will the information be used for a patron's personal area of interest or to support a desired area for exploration? How much information is needed or desired? Is this for an assignment? And if so, what are those requirements? How complex or simple is this specific inquiry? Determine where the patron has already looked. What have they done so far? This can help with determining the level of patron knowledge, and it also helps avoid fruitless paths. When does the patron need this information? Is there a deadline or a due date? This could impact the patron's availability for referrals. Finally, articulate and restate the patron's question. For more complex questions or those requiring multiple research methods and tools, be sure to restate the question back to the patron to make sure you understand it prior to beginning your search. So where to start the search? Select a reasonable resource for the question and go from there. Often one resource tends to lead itself to another, and don't be afraid to try several different resources. Vary the search terms and also try searching by a synonym. For example, if you are not finding a lot on panthers in your library books, try searching for big cats and then consult the table of contents or index in your books to determine if an individual resource may include a section on panthers. Evaluating resources is very important, especially in our society where fake news is rampant. Be sure to watch the Digital Byte on evaluating resources to take a deeper dive into this process. Sometimes referring a patron to another resource or service in the community is the right step. It might feel like the library should be the be-all, end-all, but that isn't necessarily true. There are many great specialists and experts available to work with. For example, let's pretend your library has a full-service job center less than a mile away. For patrons that need time-consuming attention to create a resume, draft a cover letter, and apply to a job online, this patron might be better served with the one-on-one attention of a job center worker rather than in and out, less in-depth service that the library staff could provide. Seeking information is about expanding knowledge, your own network, and the patron's network. There are many components that can negatively influence reference interviews. It's helpful to be mindful of them so that we can act accordingly. For example, with vague requests, try some of the questioning techniques we discussed earlier. If there are time constraints, assess when the patron needs this information. There may be time for you to continue researching and then follow up with the patron later. Other barriers could include librarian assumptions, patron frustration, complex queries, language barriers, or difficult patrons. Here are some helpful tools that you're likely already familiar with. And while this list is short, they encompass so much. For example, BadgerLink has many resources available in it, from test preparation to newspapers to readers' advisory tools. I hope this digital bite on reference interviews has been helpful to you. Thank you.